Well, first I want to say Happy Father's Day to all of you fathers here, and to all of you who are related to fathers. That means all of us, right?
Right.
Good, good, wonderful. I am excited to be with you, and my wife Brenda is here with us too, and also our son Basim. Would you wave your hand, Basim, so they know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And then Christy and Stan. Christy is our daughter, and Stan is her fiancé. So I'm glad that they came to church to worship with us and to celebrate Father's Day with me. That is wonderful. Well, we continue to pray for Pastor Craig, that he will totally recover, and that his moving or emptying the house to another place will go smooth and fine. And I know you will miss him, because we missed him when he left the Coburg United Methodist Church. So we will miss Pastor Craig a lot. So this morning, here's my theme, and I'll stand where you can see me and the camera will see the slides. Is religion behind much of the political turmoil in the world? You know, this is an important question. I had what you call it, a webinar when you give a lecture in something like a Zoom meeting via internet. You give a lecture, that is called a webinar. And I was part of a webinar where about 2,000 people were listening to us. And after I spoke, there were questions and answers. And the last question that was given to me, one person asked me this same question right here. Do you believe that religion is behind much of the political turmoil in the Middle East? And of course, you know, I have to give an answer, so I gave a quick answer. But when the program was over, I started thinking about my answer, and I said, well, I'm not totally pleased with my answer. And I started really thinking that there must be more to answer this question than what I gave, you know, for all these people who are listening to me. And so I took that question and wrote an article about it. And then, of course, here I have my editors there, my wife and my son and my daughter are my editors. You know? So they edited, and then we published it in a magazine called the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs. And then, when I was asked by the church here to speak, I thought I will turn that article into some kind of a PowerPoint and a sermon for you. So this is what I'm going to be doing this morning. Try to answer the question, is religion behind much of the suffering in the Middle East and around the world? And this is a question on the minds of many people. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people don't come to church because they think that religion is behind much of the suffering in the world. So I want to try to attempt to answer this question as we go through these slides. Okay, what do you say to people who point to religion as being behind the turmoil? That is the question for me and the question for you. In case someone asks you, what do you think? Is religion behind the turmoil in the world? What would you answer them? And so here's my first point. The answer cannot be responded to with a yes or with a no, but rather with yes and no. And all through what I'm going to be talking about this morning, I'm going to start with a yes and then move into the no. This means I'm going to be talking about, yes, religion is the problem, and then I'm going to say, no, religion is not the problem. And then you figure it out, right? All right. Okay, so one thing for sure, we cannot say that other religions are responsible, but not Christianity. You know, it's always a temptation to say maybe with the Muslims, the Buddhists, you know, the Hindus, the atheists are the problem, but not us. We Christians are the goody people. We cannot do that. That will not be right. We can't deny the negative impact of religion on the course of human history. Any student of history, any student of Christianity, any student of Islam would know that religion is really part of the problem, and it has impacted humanity many times in negative ways. The next is, it's wrong to say that Christians have made mistakes in the past, but now they do not commit religious violence. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I mean, we say, oh, in the Middle Ages, you know, a long time ago, we made mistakes, but now we have learned from our mistakes and we are not repeating our mistakes. And if I would add a number 5, I would say we should look back at history, identify our mistakes, so we will not repeat our mistakes. The answer, okay, so this is a summary of what I did. This is a summary. The answer can be yes or no, but rather yes and no. We can't say other religions are responsible, but not Christianity. We can't deny the negative impact of religion on the course of the human history. It is wrong to say that Christians have made mistakes in the past, but now they don't. So that's the summary. Next. All right, so now let's focus now on religion is the problem. All right, religion is the problem. Here we go. The bloody history of Jerusalem, my city. I was born in Jerusalem. Jerusalem was invaded and destroyed more than 20 times. My city, in the history, it was destroyed more than 20 times, and much of that was motivated by religious feelings, religious enthusiasm. One religion goes against another religion. One religious group wants to subjugate another religious group. Then the invasion of Jerusalem by the Zionists. When I was 2 years old, 1948, the Zionists came and took over Jerusalem, pushed all Palestinians out, and made our people refugees. The Zionists, some of them are religious Zionists. They felt that God was giving them the country and that it was legitimate for them to push us out because they are God's chosen people and we don't belong neither to God nor to the land. So we were pushed out. Religion was part of the Zionist movement. And then the Zionists are not the only ones who use religion to achieve their political goals. You know, Muslims, Christians, all kinds of different denominations have used religion in order to advance their causes. Next. And here I have a list of examples how religion have been used in a wrong way. Like we read in the story of Naboth and Ahab and Jezebel. They, in that story, really religion. Jezebel used the name of God, accused this man, Naboth, of having blasphemed against God, and then stone him to death and then inherit his vineyard. That is religion being used in a terrible, terrible way. But we will go through these one by one, and I will be talking about them one by one. First, Constantine. Constantine is the first Roman emperor to accept Christianity. He was converted to the Christian faith. All the first 300 years of Christianity, Christians were not violent, Christians did not fight, Christians were persecuted. But after Constantine became the emperor, and after Christianity became the religion of the empire, then Christians started persecuting those people who were not Christians. The very persecuted became the persecutors. Next, the Crusades. The Crusades are wars that had the banner of the cross and the banner of Christ. They wanted to go to the Holy Land and try to conquer the Holy Land and cleanse it from Muslims and Islam. And of course, you know that your history, the Crusades caused the death of millions of Christians, Muslims, and Jews. And the Holy Land was not liberated for a long time for the Crusaders. The pogroms are religious wars against the Jewish people. People in the Middle Ages used to go to church and hear the preacher say, the Jews killed Jesus. Then they get out of the church, they find the first Jew, and they beat him or her, or they go to a Jewish synagogue and burn it to ashes. And the Jews in East Europe and Russia, they suffer so much because of religious hate and religious prejudice. That's the pogroms. The Inquisition. The Inquisition is something that was started in the church in Europe, Spain, Italy, and France. It started by the church to try to purge the church from what they call heretics. And many Muslims, many Jews, and many Protestant Christians were burned at the stake during the Crusades, in the name of God and in the name of religion. Colonization of Africa and Southeast Asia. If you look at the picture, at the map of colonizations, who colonized who, you will realize that the colonizer countries were so-called Christian countries. England, France, Germany, Holland, Portugal, all of these countries, and they lifted the banner of Christ and Christianity as they went and subjugated millions and millions of people and killed so many millions of people in the name of God and in the name of religion. This is really embarrassment to Christ and embarrassment to Christianity. Colonialism or colonization and capture of the Americas, South America and North America, Southern and Northern Hemisphere. And we are here today on a land that at one time belonged to the natives of this land. And all of South America and all of North America were colonized by religious people, by Christian people. And the natives were killed, or they got sick with diseases that we brought to them, and they suffer such problem. All in the name of religion, all in the name of God. Planning and implementing of the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine, like I mentioned a little earlier before. The Zionist movement used the Bible. The Zionist movement used the name of God. The Zionist movement acted like they are God's chosen people, and they have the right to go in the name of God and expel Palestinians from their homes and take their place. By the way, this is going on until today. It did not stop. And this is why we saw the recent war in Gaza and also in East Jerusalem. Recent wars against Arab nations. The United States, our government here, they attacked Iraq on an assumption that the Iraqis have weapons of mass destruction. We know the Iraqis, now we know, they did not have weapons of mass destruction. But you know, very easily, we could go and destroy a country on assumption. But here is the secret. Most Christians, 80% of Christians in the United States were for the war. The Christians were not the ones on the street demonstrating against the war. The Christians were supporting the war. And that is so much embarrassing. I would go from church to church and tell the people that, you know, let us slow down. Let us find out if there are weapons of mass destruction. And people would say, no, our president is a born-again Christian. He would not lie to us. And so we attacked the whole country and destroyed the lives of millions of people on a false assumption. And also because we Christians are not willing to open our eyes open and learn the truth about what's happening in the Middle East. Okay, but Christians are not the only ones who abuse religion and who use religion to achieve their goals. In history, you know that other religions are guilty as well. For example, here, wars, invasions, and crimes committed by Muslims, Islamic invasions of the Middle East, Europe, and North Africa, Ottoman Turks, and the massacres of Assyrians and Armenians, Arab slavery trade, ISIS, this is the Islamic State in Syria and in Iraq, and other fanatic Islamic groups. They killed so many Christians. They destroyed so many churches, all in the name of God, in the name of Allah. They did that. Here again, example of Muslims using religion in the wrong way. So the church in the Middle East suffered a lot. Today, in much of the Middle East, there are beautiful churches that they are either destroyed, they are rubbles right now, or wonderful churches like this is the Church of All Nations in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's a beautiful church, but you go Sunday morning and you hardly see few people worshiping there. And if there are people worshiping there, they mainly will be the tourists, because most of the indigenous people have fled away from the Holy Land. So, religion, now I'm coming to my second part. Religion is not the problem, okay? I gave you the bad news first. Now, please listen to the good news, okay? Religion is not the problem, and try to figure it out in your head at the end. Who's going to win that? Whether it is the first part of my sermon or the second part of my sermon. But here is the problem. When we, as Christians, take our crosses and turn them into swords and kill people with our crosses, that is the problem. So the problem really is not in Christianity itself. The problem is not in Jesus and the apostles and what they have taught us. The problem is how we abuse our religion in order to achieve some political or economic goals. That is the problem. Next. So, I want to tell you a little bit from my own experience. In 1948, as I told you a little earlier, my country was invaded. Jerusalem, my city, was invaded. I became, not only me, but all my neighborhood, all my brothers, all my sisters, every one of us, we became refugees. I lost my father in the first Arab-Israeli war in 1948, and my mother had to take us 7 children, and we became refugees. We lost everything we had, and we had to move from one part of Jerusalem to another part of Jerusalem. But here is the good news. My mother had to work very hard, so she put us in boarding schools and orphanages. And who was responsible to start these boarding schools and orphanages in 1948? It was religious people. It was people who loved God and feared God who started these institutions. I'll give you examples. This lady, her name is Hind al-Husseini. Hind al-Husseini. She's a Muslim, but when she saw all these refugee boys and girls on the streets of Jerusalem, some of them orphans, some of them their father and mother were killed, total orphans, she decided to open her home, and she started a school called Dar al-Awlad. Dar al-Awlad in Arabic, in English means home for the boys. So she would collect, Hind al-Husseini, I'll go back a little bit, she started a school called Dar al-Tifl. Dar al-Tifl means home of the child, home of the child. And so she opened her home, she gathered all these orphans from the streets, and myself and my sister, one of my sisters, we became one of her also students in that orphanages. Next. So this is the school. It's called Dar al-Tifl, and she invited all the kids, whether they are Muslims or Christians, she didn't care. She gave them wonderful education, and she would take care of their food, their clothing, and everything. She's a Muslim, but she has a big heart, and she was willing to do this because of her faith in God. She loved God, and she loved those children. Next. Another lady, the lady with a big smile there, her name is Katie Antonius. She is the wife of a man called George Habib Antonius, who in 1938 wrote a book called The Arab Awakening. The Arab Awakening. Well, Katie Antonius, by that time, she had her husband George was dead, and she was a wealthy woman, but she was a very committed Russian Orthodox lady. And she was living in Jerusalem. She opened her house and she started a school called Dar al-Awlad, which means home for the boys. And next, please. And here is Dar al-Awlad. I was a student at this school for many, many years. Not only me, but my also three brothers. So about 90% of the students were Muslims, and 10% they were like me and my brothers, we were Christians. And the school was open for both Muslims and Christians, and we were treated fairly in the school. We were given equal opportunity at that school. This was our home, but then we went every day to another school called St. George's School, an Anglican school. Here again, opened by Christians. Christian people have that Anglican school where we went to St. George's School in Jerusalem. Next. Also, my other brothers and sisters, every one of us went to a school in Jerusalem that were opened by Christian organizations. You know, some of them were Orthodox, some Anglican, some Armenian, some Lutheran schools. All of these wonderful schools were accepting Muslims, Muslim and Christian, boys and girls, and giving them a wonderful education. This is the part of religion that I love. This is the part of religion that I like. This is actually, religion as Christ wants it. When we go out and we try to help the poor and the needy. This is one of the schools where one of my, I think Christy went to the school. It's called Talita Kumi. Talita Kumi means, it's an Aramaic, means little girl, rise up. So this is a Lutheran school in near Bethlehem, and it has now boys and girls, and from kindergarten all the way to college. Christians doing good stuff. Next. I was the principal of a school called the Hope Secondary School in Beit Jala, near Bethlehem. And when I was a principal of that school, I learned a lot. But I learned that most of the help that at the school that we received were from Christian organizations like World Vision, the Mennonite Central Committee, Catholic Relief Services. Christian people from all over the world were giving us, we were blessing the school. I could know it now because I'm the principal of the school. I know where the money was coming from. But when I was a little child, I was in the school called Dar al-Awad. And every Christmas, all of us boys were given a gift. And the gift was a towel. But inside that towel, there were toys. There were, toothpaste, toothbrush, maybe a pencil, a pen, and thing. And I received that gift. It's the only gift I got on Christmas. That towel, and wrapped inside the towel, wonderful things. I didn't know where that towel came from, who gave that towel, but I enjoyed the towel and what's inside of it. I learned later that Mennonites, Presbyterians, Methodists, Lutherans in the United States and in Canada were doing these towels and sending them over all the way to Palestine to bless us, kids, and I learned that when I became a principal because I was aware where these things were coming from. Christians all over the world were doing good stuff. This is religion at its best. So here you see, these are the towels, and in them wrapped, the good stuff. But look at the bed. I took this from Google. It's not exactly from home school. But anyway, look at the bed. You see this quilt? Every bed in Dar al-Awad, in Dar al-Tafal, at the home school, and in most of these orphanage schools, have quilts from Christian people from the United States and Canada. They were making these quilts, sending them to the mission field, and they ended up on my bed, warming me up when I was a little child. This is Christianity at its best. This is why religion is so important. And this is why I think religion is not the problem. Maybe religious leaders, maybe politicians are the problem, but not the average Christians like you and I. Next. When I was in Bethlehem, I became the head of the Shepherd Society, the humanitarian arm of Bethlehem Bible College. I was the director of the Shepherd Society. And we would write to people and receive money, and then we buy food and medicine to the sick people, to the needy people in Bethlehem. And here's the secret. This is what I learned. Most of the money came from Christian people. Christian people who cared. Religious people who cared. Religion is not bad. It could be abused, but religion is not bad. It can be very, very positive all over the world. Religion is not the problem. Also, as the head of the Shepherd Society, when we heard about the situation of the refugees in Syria, and the refugees in North Jordan, and Iraqi refugees in Amman, Jordan, we started from Bethlehem sending teams of students to help the refugees. I was responsible, and my wife Brenda, to raise money to support these teams and also to support purchasing all the material that the refugees need. And we raised thousands and thousands of dollars. And who gave the money? Christians, God's people from all over the world. They will give the money for us to help Muslim refugees in Jordan and in Amman and in Mafra in Jordan. And also, as a director of the Shepherd Society, when we heard about the bombings in Gaza, we decided to raise funds for Gaza. We raised over $200,000 within a few months after the bombing in 2014 to help the children in Gaza. The Shepherd Society serving the children of Gaza after the bombing. Yeah, and most of the money is from who? Christians. God's people. Religion being positive. Next, please. So, which part of religion is you want to pick? And when I was at the Covenant Church, and Craig was also our pastor, he always told this story, and I'm sure he told it to you many, many times. It's the story of the two wolves. And the story goes like this. The grandpa tells his grandson, he said, "Son, I have two wolves within me. One of them is the dark wolf. He is evil, he's racist, he is really bad. I mean, think of all that stuff, that is within the bad, dark wolf. But also within me, the grandfather said, there is light-colored wolf. And that light-colored wolf, he is mercy, he is kindness, he is goodness, he is generosity, he is love, he is patience, he is all the good stuff that you can think about." And the grandfather said that these two wolves are not only in me, but they are also in you. Oh, the grandson said, they are in me. So, which wolf is going to win at the end? And the grandfather said to the son, it is the wolf that you feed. It's the wolf that you feed. Religion is like this. We can feed religion with the teachings of Jesus, with the compassion, with love, with mercy, with kindness, with generosity, and religion will be great. But we can act like we are religious and be filled with prejudice, hatred, racism, and all of these evil stuff, and that's what people will see, the dark side of religion, and not the wonderful, beautiful light of religion. So it really depends so much, not on what's written in the Bible, but it really depends on you and I. How do we process our religion? And how much are we willing to stand with the poor and with the needy? I leave you with this verse from the writings of Paul. It's very important, and it should really summarize our religion. This should be who we are. This should be our character. This is what we believe. Paul said, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, dwell on these things. That is our Christianity. That's the Christianity that makes religion not the problem in the world, not the problem, and not the reason behind all the violence in the Middle East. We go in the name of Christ and we do the work of Christ with love and compassion in our hearts. Let's say a word of prayer. Mighty God, we thank you because you are a good God and you call us to do good on earth. May our religion, may our religious experience reflect your goodness, reflect your love, reflect your kindness, your compassion, and your generosity. Forgive us, Lord, for the sins of the past. Forgive us when we used religion in the wrong way, and help us to proceed doing your will the best way we can. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.